Hello and welcome to another video. And this video is going to be a forecast discussion for what's going to be developing a hurricane in the Gulf of Mexico. That's going to be Hurricane Idalia, that is expected to move up through the Gulf of Mexico this upcoming week and make landfall somewhere in the Florida Gulf Coast on Wednesday. And so I thought I'd put together a video discussing the environment and what is currently going on in the Gulf. And so also note there's Hurricane Franklin that is just east of the Bahamas. And so that is going to be moving off to the north and then curve to the northeast. That's going to be staying out to sea. It's not going to be a direct threat to the U.S. mainland. So this video is going to focus on what we have right now, which is Tropical Depression number 10, and that is going to become Tropical Storm and then eventually Hurricane Idalia as it moves up through the Gulf of Mexico. So if you enjoy this video, leave a like and subscribe, and we'll get started. So I'm going to start off this video with just kind of a bottom line here of what the forecast is. And so this comes from the National Hurricane Center. This is their forecasted track of this current tropical depression and what's going to become Hurricane Idalia. And so we had a tropical depression that developed in the northwestern Caribbean Saturday afternoon, and it is currently located just off the Yucatan Peninsula. And so the maximum sustained winds right now are only 35 miles per hour, and is moving sort of meandering to the southwest at around 2 miles per hour. So it's pretty much mostly stationary at the moment. And so currently the National Hurricane Center is forecasting this to become a tropical storm sometime tomorrow, and then it slowly pushes into the Gulf of Mexico on Monday, and then it moves up into the Gulf of Mexico Tuesday, and then makes landfall on Wednesday, somewhere on the west, somewhere either in the Florida Panhandle or the western Florida Gulf Coast. And then after that is expected to be tracking through the southeastern United States, through Georgia and the Carolinas, late Wednesday and through Thursday. And this is just what we call the cone of uncertainty. So that means the center of the storm could be anywhere inside of this cone. So say, for example, on Tuesday morning, the center of what's going to be Hurricane Idalia could be anywhere in this area Tuesday morning. And then so as we go up into early Wednesday morning, which is when right now what it looks like Hurricane Idalia would make landfall, it could be anywhere along this area here in the Florida coast. So the cone of uncertainty stretches from about Panama City, Florida, down to about Tampa, Florida. So that's just where kind of the range of what we're looking at here, where this could make landfall. So this is still several days away, and no, that's a kind of a broad scope to be concerned about. But as we go through the next couple of days, we'll have greater confidence of where exactly this is going to make landfall. So now we're going to look at the most likely arrival time of tropical storm force winds. So this is when we can expect direct impacts to be occurring. So as early as about Tuesday morning or in Tuesday afternoon, tropical storm force winds will be approaching the western Florida coast. And then by around Tuesday evening, those tropical storm force winds will be making its way up through the Gulf Coast. So even though the center of the storm may still be offshore, those tropical storm force winds are going to extend well beyond that. And so direct impacts will be felt across the Gulf Coast as early as about Tuesday evening. So that is generically what the forecast is showing right now. So let's look at some satellite imagery. And so we have two tropical systems that are on satellite. We have Hurricane Franklin, which is just east of the Bahamas. And that is currently a Category 1 hurricane, which has kind of been struggling with some pretty strong westerly wind shear that has been impacting the storm. But that is expected to weaken as this storm tracks to the north and then to the northeast. And so that could actually strengthen up to about a Category 4 hurricane as it stays out to sea. And then back to the west, we have our tropical depression. This is the center of circulation. Here is a pretty well-defined circulation for a tropical depression. And so now we're going to look at the environment of what our tropical system is going to be in. So these are the sea surface temperatures from Saturday. And then so for tropical systems, what we're looking for is sea surface temperatures above 27 degrees Celsius approximately, about 80 degrees Fahrenheit, or a pretty broad area of 30 degree or greater, 30 degrees Celsius or greater of sea surface temperatures, which is very, very warm waters that our tropical depression is going to be moving over. So that's going to be very favorable for further strengthening, which is why we're getting really concerned about a landfalling hurricane. Looking at tropical storm forecasting, we're not just concerned about sea surface temperatures, we're concerned about what's going on above the surface. And so this is water vapor imagery in the mid-levels of the atmosphere. And so this is looking at, of course, the water vapor content. And so the browns, oranges, and reds are where the dry air is located, and then whites, blues, and greens are where we have the moisture. And so we can see here with Hurricane Franklin, it's been dealing with a lot of dry air that's been intruding into the storm. But then as we look to the west, this is the center of Tropical Depression 10. And then we have in the Gulf of Mexico, which is where this is going to be moving into. On both sides of the Gulf, you have dry air, but the this tropical system is going to be moving up to the north and then to the northeast. And so this is going to be steering clear of all the dry air that is over the Gulf of Mexico, and it's going to have a lot of moisture to work with, which is one cause for concern that we're going to have a pretty strong tropical system to work with as we go through the upcoming week. So the next thing we're going to look at here is the wind shear. So for tornadic supercells, you need strong vertical wind shear. Well, hurricanes are kind of the opposite of that. You need weak vertical wind shear. So if you're unfamiliar with what wind shear is the measure of the change in wind speed and direction as you go up in altitude. And so if we look here at our tropical depression, it is the center of our depression is located off the coast, off the Yucatan Peninsula, and so it's in low amounts of vertical wind shear, which is favorable for the organization and the strengthening of a tropical cyclone. And then as we look to the north over the Gulf of Mexico, we have an upper level jet that is moving from the west, but that is expected to be weakening, and it's going to actually be in a favorable position for intensifying this tropical cyclone. And I'll show that here in just a moment. And so earlier in the forecast, we looked at the storm motion. And the current motion, it is moving southwest at 2 miles per hour. And so we're going to look into why that is. It's kind of an unusual storm motion for a tropical cyclone. An upper level high that is over the central United States. And as we know, air flows clockwise around the high pressure. And then also, that's sort of sandwiched in between our tropical depression and Hurricane Franklin. We have an upper level low that is centered as somewhere in between our tropical depression and Hurricane Franklin. And so our tropical cyclone to be steered towards the southwest currently. But that is expected to change as we go into next week. We're going to have an upper level trough that's going to develop over the Gulf of Mexico, and that's going to help, that's going to sort of pick up our tropical depression and steer it to the north. Look at some of the models and see what that looks like. So this is a forecast model from the GFS, and we're going to look at Tuesday morning. So this is the upper level trough that is expected to develop over the eastern United States and then stretching into the Gulf of Mexico. And so this low pressure center, this is the center that's associated with Idalia. And then we have our wind speeds that are shown in the coloring here. And so this is going to be the direction of our upper level jet. What this branch of the jet stream is going to do is it's going to create a void in the atmosphere, and then that's going to help increase the upper level divergence, which creates this void in the atmosphere. And as we know, that the atmosphere doesn't like that void, so it's going to bring air up from below. And so for the case of a tropical system, that's going to increase the upper level divergence, and that's really going to help strengthen your thunderstorm updrafts, which in turn makes for a stronger storm. So we're going to have a pretty favorable interaction with a trough as we go into the beginning of this upcoming week. And that's going to really help intensify the storm and help it to become a hurricane, and then potentially be rapidly intensifying as it approaches landfall. So all of these things together makes for a pretty favorable environment for an intensifying tropical system into a hurricane that's going to be making landfall somewhere either in the Florida Panhandle or the West Florida coast Wednesday morning. So that's going to cover it for this video. I just want to get a video out there that discusses the increasing threat for a landfalling hurricane for the Gulf Coast. And so in a couple of days, I'll update again with some more specific information about threats and timing and things of that nature. And so thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.